To discuss more, we are now being joined by Stephen Golub from California. He's a political analyst and a lawyer. Welcome to WION, Mr. Golub.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Mr. Golub, there are questions being raised on why a 5-time Bronze Star recipient would orchestrate the New Year's Day explosion. At this point of time, there are 2 letters which have been recovered which outline that the incident was not a terror attack but rather a wake-up call. First up, what do you make of the letters which have just been recovered?
You know, it could be that what they reveal is the simplest explanation, which is that sometimes a very disturbing event is caused by, unfortunately, someone who's very disturbed. This fellow apparently may well have suffered, as your introduction correctly pointed out, from PTSD. He was not only a combat veteran, he was Special Forces Green Beret, who sees even more intensive action than most soldiers do. On top of it, it seems that he and his wife had either broken up or had a big fight a week earlier. The letters do make a statement, among other things, that he was trying to issue a wake-up call to the U.S., but that aspect of it is a little bit mysterious or confusing in that he was objecting to what he called weak and selfish leadership at the same time that he was a fan of Donald Trump, who will be president, the leader of the country, in just a few weeks.
Right, Mr. Golub, a lot of details coming in, and like you mentioned that this is perhaps one of the simplest explanations given by the authorities. Details reveal, like you mentioned, that he was a Trump supporter. While the letter also outlines his political issues and grievances, what do you make of his motivation, which still remains unknown? Because what we know so far is that the officials have outlined that he was suffering from PTSD.
You know, now I'm really going to speculate. I want to emphasize that it's to try to square this circle of his objections to U.S. leadership, but his being a big supporter of Donald Trump. Perhaps, and again, this is just speculation, he was thinking that given that Donald Trump has assailed the leadership of the country, people aside from him and his allies, and had assailed what bad shape Trump feels the country was in, this poor fellow who committed this suicide bombing might have thought that he was in effect supporting or agreeing with Trump by going ahead and through this bombing trying to call attention to the country's problems. But one more time, I'll say that's just speculation, and I'm certainly not accusing Donald Trump of being responsible for this in any way. I'm just trying to understand what was going on in this poor fellow's head.
Mr. Golub, in his letter, he said that Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. How do you think the attack is being perceived in the United States of America?
You know, people are still trying to figure out here what was going on, particularly since at first there was puzzlement or people were wondering, is this connected to the horrible New Orleans drive-through attack that occurred, within the same approximate time frame? So I think there's a lot of puzzlement still over it, people trying to figure it out, sadness over it, and an attempt to understand what might have been going on in this fellow's head. Unlike some other tragic events here, I don't think people are seeing this as somehow a symbol or signifying something wrong with the country more generally, unlike, the mass gun shootings that we have. This seems to be an isolated individual, and I think people, until at least more information comes out, are just seeing it as the work of someone who fought for his country, served his country, but maybe came away from that experience of combat very, very disturbed, to the point where it at least provided the background to his going ahead and committing this horrible, tragic act.
Right, Mr. Golub, and the investigators have clearly said that there's no definitive link between the New Orleans attack and the Tesla Cybertruck attack. But thank you for joining us on WION with your insights on this.
Thank you.